We've been talking about this before we got on air today. We need a Christian nationalism jingle, somebody.
Oh, yeah. That's the next one that the Jingle Boys need to put together.
Yeah.
The Jingle Boys and girls. I'll see if I can remember to put that into the Discord. Yes. Christian nationalism continues to be the biggest threat to American democracy, Gons. I went through in the past 2 days or so. It's pretty much every single outlet has posted something about this Christian nationalism, theocracy. And it's fun because this is one of the things we spotted early as far as, people paying attention are concerned. We heard about the threats to democracy, the this, the that, sort of an ambiguous threats that American democracy will be destroyed and you got to vote Democrat or else. And they didn't quite have nobody was really buying it because they didn't really have a good answer for what exactly was the biggest threat. But as we've been tracking and dissecting, now the crosshairs are on something called Christian nationalism. So we're going to continue our exploration of what that means in the mainstream. This is coming from MSNBC.com. The headline, Why America, oh, this is great. Why America needs a new kind of atheism right now.
Well, what happened to the old kind? What happened to the four horsemen of atheism? The old Richard
atheism,
Dawkins
so
and
old.
All
it's
those guys.
crusty. It doesn't. It's as bad. It's been debunked.
They've
we
been,
need new
they've been
atheism.
Philosophically embarrassed by Christian apologists.
Listen to the sub headline. An energetic atheism can tackle the twin crises of creeping theocracy and the death of conventional religion. Ooh.
Like the two towers.
Yes. Their headline image here is very bizarre. It's very sort of occulty and artsy fartsy. It's like a bunch of different hands of sculptures. Some of them are in praying, folded in praying positions. Some are sort of the unfolded praying position. Some are pointing fingers. And it's just a very interesting sort of unsettling image they're using here. Now listen to this, because they get straight to it, Gons. Again, and Canary Cry NewsTalk listeners, this will not surprise you.
Ooh.
But you should feel proud that, your show called this before it had become apparent.
And let me just point out that this did get published today, August 1st at 11:33 a.m.
Yes. That's weird. To me, it says 10:33 a.m.
Doesn't matter, man. Maybe you're in a different time zone, but you're not. So, hey, but you are.
Who knows? But I am. What is time? Time is a flat circle.
Yeah, it's upside
Here it goes
down
like
loophole.
this. Listen to it, Gons, because they get straight to it. Remember, we've spent the past couple months sort of dissecting, going into the messages, connecting the dots between stories, analyzing, deconstructing the media to come up with the whatever, our theory.
Thesis, the thesis.
The thesis that, they're talking about Christian theocracy. I see what they're doing here. They've been ramping up to it. Listen to how they just first couple sentences. There are two pressing crises tied to the state of religion in America today. A new style of atheism can help answer both of them. The first crisis is rooted in an excess of religion. Christian theocracy is not far off specter, but an emerging reality in America. So they just come out and say it now. You don't need your favorite legacy news media and analysts and deconstructionist podcasters to tell you how it is. They just are coming straight out with it now.
So wait, but emerging reality, the point that we've been making over and over, with the topic of Christian nationalism, is that it was formed in the 50s, 30s, 40s,
yes,
and officially in the 50s with the Psychological Strategy Board. And it's something that the government has been working on as a psychological operation on the U.S. to militarize through religion. So no, it's not an emerging reality at all.
It's not an emergency.
Nobody really
it's created by the government,
but nobody talks about the history. So of course, from many people in the milieu of now will think, never has there ever been anything like this before, but here we are. Right. It's emerging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of which, the Psychological Strategy Board that you just mentioned, in this learning about the Korean War that I've been doing, was actually created during the Korean War in response to the Korean War. Mm-hmm. It's all about the Korean War.
1951, brainwashing, if I'm not mistaken.
Brainwashing as a concept was sort of invented because of the Korean War and anti-communist sort of propaganda.
Right.
Very interesting connections we have here between I just happened to be learning about the Korean War and its connections to this Christian theocracy that was created by our own country, the government, the faith leaders, the businesses, to better control Americans. Mainly to stop them from becoming communists.
It's kind of a radicalization.
A self-radicalization. Yeah. And now here we are. Christian theocracy is not far off specter, but an emerging reality in America. Fueled by a radically reactionary Supreme Court that is 2/3 Catholic, Thomas Jefferson's already dilapidated and graffitied wall of separation between church and state is crumbling. The overturning of Roe v. Wade means the lives of women across the country are being held hostage. The lives of women are being held hostage by a conservative Christian conception of life.
Wow. I didn't know conceptions can hold people hostage, but okay.
The very idea of life, the very concept of life is holding these women hostage. Okay. Kennedy v. Bremerton permits school officials to publicly pray and make students feel pressured to join in. Okay, adding some flavor there. Carson v. Macon allows taxpayer dollars to be used to fund religious education. And at the state level, Republican-led legislatures have invoked Christianity as they pursue a systematic assault on transgender rights, while abortion abolitionists convinced some Louisiana lawmakers that people who get abortions should be charged with homicide. I'm just going to keep moving. Scholars of the religious right. Oh, listen to this part. Scholars of the religious right. Okay, so the religious right, the scholars of the religious right. Scholars of the religious right are also sounding alarms over the emergence of Christian nationalism. They're not very good scholars of the Christian right if they think that Christian nationalism is emerging out of nowhere. A QAnon-addled authoritarian political movement whose champions breached the U.S. Capitol and prayed on the Senate floor on January 6th.
Oh, how dare they pray on the Senate floor? Destruction of our country.
They breached the Capitol and prayed. Ooh. Quote, the church is supposed to direct the government. The government is not supposed to direct the church. Representative Lauren Boebert of Colorado, a leader in the diehard Trump wing in the House, said at a church in her home state recently, quote, I'm tired of this separation of church and state junk.
Yeah, everybody's quoting that from Boebert.
Yeah, we read this in every single one of these articles. She received a standing ovation from her audience. The second crisis tied, ironically, to the decline of religion. The religious right is securing more power in courts and legislatures and becoming more influential within right-wing culture, but is not becoming more popular. Instead, there has been an accelerating American drift away from organized religion, and most often towards nothing in particular. A rapid increase, they put that in quotes, by the way. Yeah. That's like what's on
it's
the
linked to
poll.
it's linked to a Pew Research article here.
Yeah. A rapidly increasing share of Americans Americans are detaching from religious communities that provide purpose and forums for moral contemplation and not necessarily finding anything in their stead. They're dropping out of church, and survey data suggests they're disproportionately likely to be checked out from civic life. Their trajectory tracks with a broader decades-long trend of secular life defined by plunging social trust, faith in institutions, and participation in civil society. I found this to be an interesting detail. You know, we hear about how Americans are losing faith in institutions, things like, the government, police, FDA, things like that, CDC. And they're linking the lack of faith in the government and social institutions with lack of faith, in God, which there's so much to go into there.
Yeah,
It's so bizarre. It's a very interesting message.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't looked into the data myself, but just the communication, the narrative of, yes, they're losing faith in God and the government. Can you believe it? It's almost like the government and God are the same thing. Whoa. I don't know. There's a lot there. My belief is that an energetic, organized, atheist movement, which I propose calling, listen to this, communitarian atheism. Communitarian atheism.
This guy needs some PR help.
It's not communism,
no,
okay?
Do you know how long he will be explaining to people how it's not communism if he called it communitarian atheism?
It is the most triggering for somebody who is in the church, kind of, and especially somebody who is in a Christian nationalist mindset, I will say. The term communitarian atheism is the most triggering term you could possibly make. It is almost, anyways. Communitarian atheism would provide an effective way to guard against the twin crises of intensifying religious extremism on one end and the atomizing social consequences of a plunge in conventional religiosity on the other. So admitting that sort of the lack of faith is bad for society, but, the other side of that is also bad for democracy or something. An organized atheist community can help agitate for and finance a secularist equivalent of the Federalist Society, the right-wing legal movement that helped populate the federal courts with hard right jurists and help get us into this mess. To act as a bulwark against theocracy. Quote, there has been zero, and I mean zero, innovation in the doctrine of separation of church and state in the last 50 years. Jacques Bouligne-Boulier, a scholar at Georgetown University and the author of Secularism, The Basics. That's funny. Georgetown, CIA guy, told me, atheists who consciously believe in their worldview have a particularly urgent interest in helping to lead a legal and political movement to protect against theocracy. So, in a way, what we're hearing here is to fight against Christian theocracy, we need to make a new religion called communitarian atheism so we can fight against Christian theocracy and help instill an atheist theocracy.
How dare you? Atheist theocracy cannot happen. We by definitions as atheists aren't theocratists. It's an atheocracy.
See, that's the thing. He is fully admitting now, fully sort of accepting that atheism is its own religion. Because listen to this. At the same time, atheism can address the social and spiritual vacuum emerging in the wake of the slow death of mainstream organized religion. This requires learning from religion, not indiscriminately attacking it, by putting together study groups, communities for secular meditation.
What is that?
And elucidating.
What is secular meditation?
Meditating without God, apparently, and elucidating the meaning of joys of atheism without spewing venom towards all religion. Atheists can build spaces for religion-skeptical people to find purpose, think about ethics, form community, and consider more carefully how to build a better society. So, I mean, he quite literally says, yeah, you can put together atheist Bible studies and atheist church and atheist prayer and atheist, all these, just do the same thing.
Atheist
just
worship.
call it atheist.
We worship no one except ourselves.
My personal journey as an atheist, which involved disillusionment with religion and mainstream atheism. Let me read that again.
Yeah,
my personal journey as an atheist, which involved disillusionment with religion and mainstream atheism, is a big part of how I arrived at this idea. It may help to share it. Atheism opened up my world, but it didn't hold it together. And I'm going to stop there because it goes into about 100 paragraphs.
Yeah, a lot of stuff.
Why this guy loves atheism so much. But you can see here, I mean, we full throttle have come to the point where Christian nationalism, Christian theocracy is the biggest threat to our country. And to save our country, we must become religious atheists. And it's funny because if you were to say, and many have said it, I'm sure we've said it in the past, and lots of our guests have said it. Lots of people say it. They want to get rid of Christianity in our nation and replace it with atheism. And it kind of has this kind of like, okay, feel to it, but they're just straight up putting it in the mainstream media that is the plan. Get rid of Christian. The only way to defend against Christian theocracy and save our nation is for all of us to become atheists, religiously atheists. Yeah. So that'll be fun.
Well, I was thinking as he was describing his little stance here that this is more of an agnostic perspective. And actually, there's a quick note down at the bottom. I view atheism as a big tent. Atheism does not mean, as is commonly mistakenly believed, that one is certain of the non-existence of gods. It means a lack of belief in them. I've heard this a lot from atheists, but more so from agnostics, for evidence and sometimes logical reasons, in a manner that is consistent with the popular use of the term agnosticism, which technically refers to limitations on what we can know. So he's even admitting that it's not like he's almost trying to change the definition of atheism to be more of an agnostic approach. So I don't know. Right. It's not necessarily important to the conversation per se, but
well, I think what is important to the conversation that you're pointing out is we need to pay attention to what they are defining new atheism to be.
Yeah.
Because there is a temptation. And look, folks, I've been in the church for over 3 decades. And the sort of way that people in the church talk about atheism has not changed in over 30 years. And it has never been very good, but it's, mostly been sort of snarled at and sort of venomized and sort of, just not really given any sort of intellectual attention. But I think there is a wake up alarm going off for the church and for Christian people, or really any religious person, to pay very close attention to how new atheism is being formed, what it looks like, what its tenets are, what the shape of it takes in society, because it does not look very much like what, the atheism that can be sort of scoffed at on the pulpit is. And I think that's something we just really need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Or else we're just not going to be effective.
Yeah. And it goes into the meditation side of it, the secular meditation groups to explore something else that allows for contemplation. So it is interesting because they are leaning into some spiritual practices and rituals and things, which you can argue if you see value in them, why are you Why do you want to strip sort of the foundational?
Well, that's what it is. It's a religious atheism. Yeah. So you do the actions, you participate in the format of religion, just with the sort of atheism at its core.
Right.
And we've seen this quite a bit, where the practices, spiritual practices like prayer or meditation or corporate worship or gathering or whatever, name any really activity that happens in a church, even scientifically has all these benefits outside of the beliefs that are attached to them.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point, is they want to just recreate the thing that will save us from Christian theocracy is atheistic theocracy. Take the exact form of church and religion and just do it in an atheist version. Yeah. Right.
So,
and it's just funny that's what's going to save us.
Salon.com had a similar commentary piece here called "The Backlash to Christianity. Republicans are now panicked, but they only have themselves to blame." And the subtitle here, "It's not lack of school prayer causing people to abandon faith. It's that Christianity has become a toxic religion."
Ooh.
Really? Christianity became a toxic religion? Interesting.
Well, I mean, we have sort of tracked how they talked about the imposter Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
There's that article by CNN about imposter Christianity. So it is almost like they realize, we can't quite sort of, take apart the thousands-year-old religious tradition of Christianity as a whole.
Right.
But we'll just say, now it's bad. Yeah. Now it's bad.
Yeah,
okay.
The current
now it's bad.
Form,
so just stop.
The current form is violent and destroying the country.
Yeah,
the emerging threat.
And there certainly any honest, intellectually or spiritually honest person in the church today can certainly agree that there are bad versions of it, for sure.
Yeah, of course.
But the existence of bad versions of it shouldn't necessarily discount the good versions of it.
Because everything is in a political context, especially the Salon piece. Even the new atheist conversation of hey, how can we? Because in the article before, there was a part that I didn't read out loud, but there was a part that basically said that one of the guy with the French name. What was his name? Whatever it was, the professor guy.
I couldn't repeat it to you if my life depended on it.
Berliner Blau, Georgetown University. He basically said that they need an equivalent, a liberal, I think it was a secular liberal version of what we're seeing with the Christian right movement. Who's our liberal, secular liberal judge? Who's our, they don't have any of that. So that's what this guy was arguing. And because of that, the media and everything else, they will try to convince you that the core tenets of Christianity are thus wrong. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting how they're trying to pull people away from that. But this Salon.com article has some interesting things. Again, it's a opinion piece. There's a little line in here that I highlighted. Christian nationalism, the idea both that the U.S. should be an explicitly Christian nation and that the laws should enforce fundamentalist Christian beliefs, used to be an unthinkable idea in American politics. Unthinkable idea, Basil, except, it was conjured in the mind of many of our prior presidents.
Leaders in the 50s.
40s, 30s, 50s. Yeah. But no, it was an unthinkable thing.
Oh, no.
So I thought that was pretty funny. And then they, throw Andrew Torba of Gab under the bus, throw a bunch of politicians under the bus, which is no surprise. Mandated faith is morally reprehensible and in direct violation of human rights.
Mandated faith. See, that's the interesting thing. They keep bringing up that same topic where if something in the U.S. government aligns with a value of faith, they're calling that mandated faith. It's almost like they don't actually know what the word faith means. They don't.
As an atheist myself, I really don't care if large numbers of people give up religion. On the contrary, it seems like a sensible choice to me. But if Republicans don't like people losing faith, well, they need to admit they did this to themselves. If they'd moderated their views and made their churches more tolerant and welcoming places, more people would be interested in attending. Really, we did the lukewarm church, humongous, but also okay.
As if that hasn't been happening.
Yeah.
As if that hasn't already been like a
problem,
a pandemic of its own,
right? And all this
the past decades,
and all this talk of forced prayer and Christian nationalism isn't going to help matters, but will instead make ordinary people hate them even more. As with the GOP-led book bans only leading more kids to read the forbidden books, Republican attempts to foist their beliefs on others only causes more backlash against Christianity itself. Interesting. So that's it. That's the end of the article from Amanda Marcotte, atheist.
Well, it's funny.
Writing for Salon, senior writer.
The concept of mandated faith and trust the science.
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
Okay. Well, there you go.